Hey guys, so now that all of the elemental primary weapons are available, and I have all of them, just wanted to sort of rank them in terms of what I think the best overall elemental primary weapons for each element are for PvE. So sort of like the tier list, the weapons are judged on their ability as a weapon both with and without their element on it, and also how well the weapon would perform versus others when there is a burn modifier active. If you just care about my rankings and you do not care why, check the description. Before we start, the only differences between the elemental and non-elemental versions of the weapons are the paint job, the fact that they're exotic, and that they have an element on them. That's it. We're going to start with arc, since there are many arc weapons. Overall, the top two are Fatebringer, provided you're using explosive rounds, and Fang of Ute. Fatebringer just continues to crush all faces, with explosive rounds getting around some of the range issues that hand cannons have. I went over a lot of what makes Fatebringer good in a previous video. You can find the link in the description. The Fang of Ute is also at the top because it is a workhorse weapon. It's not anything fancy, it's just really good at what it's supposed to do. It's reliable, it's the most common version of the scout rifle, which most people are accustomed to at this point. The only negative is that it is a scout rifle, and so it falters up close a little bit. That being said, I'm going to place Zhalo pretty much right next to Fang of Ute, because for what Fang can do from afar, Zhalo just crushes up close. The chain lightning effect, generating bonus super energy, throwing ammo back into the magazine, is a monster for PvE, but without any sort of modifier to help it, its bullet damage is a little on the weaker side. Then we go to the middle of the pack with Oversoul Edict, Praetit's Timepiece, and Chaos Dogma. These are all weapons that perform well, but otherwise don't really stick out too much. Edict and Timepiece in terms of stats might as well be the same weapon. Super low damage pulses have never really been too popular in PvE unless it's all you have, although they're not exactly terrible or anything like that. But these need modifiers to help them out a little bit more than the weapons mentioned earlier. Chaos Dogma, on the other hand, is a very slow weapon, and with Fang of Ute also being a little more well-rounded, I don't know how much of a place Chaos Dogma has, unless of course you are able to really hit consistent headshots or want something for boss damage. Then again, there aren't really many activities outside of raids that require you to min-max that much to the point where you're swapping around Chaos Dogma and Fang of Ute anyway. At the bottom, we have Anguish of Driston and Necrochasm. Necrochasm's main perk did get a buff, it's way easier to activate, and yes, the damage is insanely high on the explosion. The explosion radius, however, is not that large, and bullet hose autos have not really been great in PvE. With arc burn or small arms, this is a really fun gun because you can just chain explosion after explosion, but without those mods, I probably wouldn't touch Necro unless I want to torture my raid group. Anguish of Driston has always been this anomaly of an auto rifle with really weird recoil, and it's sort of unwieldy to use, it just feels awkward. And with so many other weapons available in the ranges where Anguish is supposed to succeed, you could probably get rid of this as soon as you get it. In the solar category, Vision of Confluence will surprise absolutely no one as being the top solar weapon. Everything that is good about Fang of Ute came from Vision of Confluence, which I think is even better. 19 in the magazine is insanely high, with full auto making scout rifle shooting much less tedious, and the stability on the weapon makes controlling the gun really easy. It is another boring workhorse weapon. It's not fancy, it's not flashy, it's just gonna kill stuff really, really well. In the middle of the pack, we have Smite of Moraine, Genesis Chain, and Fever and Remedy. Smite of Moraine is probably the best of the King's Fall primary weapons, which is unfortunately not saying much considering its competition. It does have a little bit of a bounce to it that you need to get used to, but you can still absolutely hit 3 crit bursts without too much issue. It excels in the close mid and mid ranges, but those farther off targets that other pulses might hit might be a little bit of an annoyance. Genesis Chain was never really too popular either, but it's a pretty easy to control weapon with focused fire on it. Both of the weapons have Firefly as well, but I don't think of Firefly as the main selling point for these weapons. They're just pretty easy to use weapons, both good in similar ranges, dealing pretty good damage. Fever and Remedy, on the other hand, when you try to max out the range on Fever and Remedy, you lose a ton of stability, which makes the thing go flying out of your hand when you shoot it. It's very obnoxious to wield. However, if you don't try to stack range on this thing and you keep things balanced, it actually has the slightest bit better stats than Fatebringer, and its recoil is pretty easy to control. I would recommend using a more balanced build with the weapon. Instead of trying to stack range, you will have a much better time with it. Its perks are okay. And not exactly on the bottom, but lower than all those other weapons, we have Vex Mythoclast and Abyss Defiant. Vex Mythoclast is an absolute beast in its optimal ranges. Unfortunately, its optimal ranges are basically super close, and as soon as you start to stray away from those distances, its weakness starts to show. It also suffers from a lot of ammo problems. You cannot hold a lot of ammo with this gun. Abyss Defiant is in a similar category, with it also excelling up close and then losing focus at extended ranges. Neither of these weapons are really bad, but will require a little more thought than using something like Genesis Chain or Vision of Confluence. In the Void category, the most lackluster category of them all, Steel Medulla and Doom of Chelchis are going to reign supreme. Steel Medulla was my favorite Wrath the Machine weapon because it just felt like the most reliable as a gun. Its competition wasn't exactly flashy either though. Its main perk isn't really anything to write home about, but in general the weapon is stable, kills some stuff, and is otherwise easy to use. Doom of Chelchis is not like Fang and Vision, it has a bit more kick to it comparatively. Full auto you would think would be nice to have, but might be a tad overwhelming on this weapon in particular. I would rate Steel Medulla a bit higher just due to ease of use. Then in the not the best Void weapon category, we have Word of Crota, Atheon's Epilogue, and Zhalo's Bane. These are all weapons that I would likely dismantle right away if it weren't for their Void damage capabilities. Word of Crota is a bit better than Zhalo's Bane, more range, stability, faster reload, and a slightly better perk set. Atheon's Epilogue was initially used to try to complete Thorn bounties in year 1, and that's about it. And while people have learned how to play, Atheon's Epilogue will likely not be part of many loadouts. It's a bullet hose auto, its stability isn't the strongest, and in general is just kind of outperformed. I will say that the Epilogue is great for killing oracles in VOG though. None of the weapons are particularly awful. I used Zhalo's Bane in a Void Nightfall and did just fine, but they wouldn't be my first picks. So there's your elemental primary weapon rundown. Fatebringer and Fang for Arc, maybe Zhalo as well, Vision of Confluence for Solar, and Steel Medulla for Void are my top picks for what I would use if I needed to bust out an elemental primary weapon. That's not to say you couldn't use any of the other weapons, because when there is a burn modifier active, any one of these weapons is going to shred through enemies, but the ones I listed are both good with and without burns. If you enjoyed this video, a positive rating would be cool. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.